Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Berezin from MSDW, and welcome to another episode of the BizApps Marketing Minutes podcast. Today, we're going to slightly deviate from pure marketing strategies and talk a little bit more about channel sales strategies for BizApps ISVs and partners. And my guest today is actually an expert in this, Rick McCutcheon. Rick is an 11-time Microsoft MVP and is a recognized expert in the BizApps community in sales process design and social selling. Rick, it's awesome to have you join the podcast today. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. This is a great subject, and I think it's kind of timely with we've got the partner marketing event coming up in Chicago in May, I think on the 13th, and a couple of other conferences are right behind it. So there's a lot going on in the space, especially around channel.
Yep, I would agree. And I don't think, I think more often than not, marketing tends to be the main focus of a lot of discussions in this space. And I think channel sales topics really need to kind of be more at the forefront. So it's awesome that you're able to kind of join us and talk to us about that today. So before we get started, tell us all about Rick McCutcheon. You've been in this space for a long, long time, and you have such a diverse, such a nice and diverse set of experiences that you can draw on.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So, over 25 years now in the, I'm going to call it the CRM space because before Dynamic CRM was a product, I was heavily involved with some of the other vendors around their products. So my background is really around sales process design and best practices. I spent most of my career doing that. And at one point, pretty much that's all I did for companies was go in and re-engineer sales processes. When Microsoft came out with Dynamic CRM, I jumped at the opportunity. And that was 20 years ago now, and became an MVP on that product and have worked in this space for that many years. And I really kind of moved my business away from working with end user customers, designing sales processes, to really more working with the channel and this whole P2P strategy. So, right now I do a lot of thought leadership work with MS Dynamics World in this space. We do a monthly show on channel sales. But, what I'll call my advisory work or coaching work is really building a partner-to-partner strategy for ISVs and SIs to work more closely together. And a big part of that strategy, it's really a RevOps strategy that combines marketing and sales.
Yeah. And I'm sure, given your years of experience, you've seen a lot of evolution in channel sales strategies over the years, especially since the advent of cloud-based solutions like D365. What kind of specific things have you seen regarding sort of the evolution of channel sales in the BizApps ecosystem?
That's a great question because it's really, really important to both SIs and to ISV partners and to Microsoft to really, I don't want to say to understand this, but to really look at the way this go-to-market has changed. Even 10 years ago, when I was an SI partner, whether it was an ERP space or CRM space, I kind of owned my customers, managed my customers, and it was really a sales leadership practice to take my team and to work with my customers and find out what they needed, go out and source it, bring it to them. And we've seen kind of a big change in the last 10 years where our customers are less dependent on partners, whether we want to kind of face up to that fact or not. And they're doing their own research and evaluation of products, of services, especially around ISV products. And, they're attending the conferences like they've always done, but they're really consuming a lot more information like we find on MS Dynamics World, or we find in, different social media or YouTube on products, and making a lot more of that decision for themselves. And a lot of them will go back to the partner to validate what they're thinking, but the customer is really driving the sale now. And the salespeople used to be involved right from the start of the process, from the customer. Now we're seeing the partner salesperson probably not get involved till, they're 70, 80, maybe 90% down their evaluation process.
Interesting. So customers are really sort of driving more of the decision making around this. Yeah.
And I think that's important because a lot of our partners are sitting on hundreds of customers over the years, right?
Yeah.
And I think they've got to change the way they manage the relationship with their customers and the way they pass information to their customers.
Yeah. And how do you think they should go about doing that? Because that's a great point.
Well, I think, I came out of sales ops, right? So I hate to say this, but I think marketing ops is the lead now. And we've got marketers on this call. Whether you're an SI partner market or VAR marketer, or you're an ISV marketer, I think you really need to lead the charge. And I'm working on a lot of campaigns right now where we're saying, okay, what do we do with end user customers and how do we get our messages to them? What are we doing if I'm working with an ISV? What are we doing to partners? How do I get my message on a consistent basis to partners? And if it's applicable, how do we run campaigns to the Microsoft sellers? Because it's really three important parts to this, right? So we've got Microsoft, we've got partners, and we've got end user customers that we, have to push our information to.
And when we say the term channel sales, I was actually talking about this with somebody the other day. Do you primarily think of partners? Do you primarily think of ISVs? I kind of view it as a combination of both. What do you think?
Oh, it's absolutely a combination of both because, if we look at the ERP side of things, now that we've moved products into the cloud, there's many more ISVs attached to it. And the ISVs are spending a lot of money integrating their products into the cloud. So it's easier to add products. It's easier to change products. So they're always looking at how do I get the most out of what I own today? And now we're seeing with AI coming into this saying, okay, what can you now do with co-pilots and agents, which is important for the partners to understand. And when we go back to the customers, and I do a lot of work with the user community groups, we go back to customers and I think they're a little bit overwhelmed. Like they're trying to get the best out of the investment they have made today, whether that's adding an ISV or, more customizations or adding AI to it. So I think that, it's really important that the SI or VAR partner stays engaged to understand, what are the challenges of this customer, and you really work with them on their longer term roadmap or plan for their implementation.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what do you think a big mistake is that partners can make in this in this kind of evolved ecosystem? Yeah.
I think they look for opportunities. They wait for the customer to come to them to say, hey, I'm looking to update my AP automation or my legal software or my marketing automation. I don't think they spend enough time going to the customer and really doing account management or advisory work to say, okay, where do you want to take your business for the next 18 months, 2 years?
So it's really kind of being a lot more proactive than they have been in the past.
Yeah, I think proactive and I think sharing information. What I see is there's a huge gap is in the channel, we get all this information from sources like MS Dynamics World. We get information from from Microsoft, overwhelming information from Microsoft if you're a partner, but we don't pass this information on to our customers.
Yeah.
And a good example, a couple of years ago, I was at the North American Summit, and we were doing the new CRM users session. So new people to the conference. And there was about, I'm going to say maybe 200 people in the room. And, everybody's going on about Dataverse and Power Apps, right? This is before the big AI push.
Sure.
And, I was sort of facilitating the session. And I said, by a show of hands, how many here know what a Power App is? And, from a customer base, maybe 20% put their hands up. They don't know what a Power App is, right? But we talk about it like they should know.
Sure.
And I don't think I don't think we spend enough time and effort and money really educating our customers about what's out there, where they need to go, and how we can help them.
Yep. I absolutely agree with that. And I agree that both SIs and ISVs really need to sort of play the role of educator a lot more, especially now, because I feel like the landscape is changing so fast. And as you said too, I think a lot of customers have a basic idea about what some of the things are, especially around the AI tools, but they really don't fully understand how it can impact their business, and why they should, move forward with some of these tools. So I do agree. I think the partners need to take a much more proactive approach in really educating the customers. So, shifting to ISVs for a second, actually, and I guess we can throw SIs in this as well. I think kind of aligning their go-to-market strategies with Microsoft is also huge. So it's not just from the education perspective, but it's also making sure that, that they're kind of running their campaigns and sort of selling along the same sides as what Microsoft is sort of telling the general public, and kind of aligning it with that. How do you think that they can, both ISVs and SIs, better align their kind of go-to-market strategies with Microsoft?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because, with partner talks, and we just did our 250th episode, and the programs we've developed at MS Dynamics World, and I know we're not giving an infomercial here, but, I think thought leadership is really, really important for partners, whether you're an SI partner or an ISV partner, to get people to see you as the expert in that space. And I know here's a good example. We did a session with a partner when Fabric was kind of first announced. And how many people did we get on that webinar?
Yeah. I think like close to 450. I remember that session.
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was a really good session.
Customers were, oh, Fabric, I've heard about this, right? And I want to learn more about this. So it's really, and we work with that partner to say, okay, let's do a follow-up series, because you can't go out once and talk about it. You need to go out consistently and talk about it. So I think it's important for all partners to figure out, okay, what am I really good at? Because sure, we can say we're good at everything, but are we really good at everything? Do we work in specific industries? Are we really good in energy? Are we really good in education? Are we really good in manufacturing? Okay, become the thought leader around that, and really work out, your information. And I think, you've got to be consistent on a monthly basis, creating content or sharing content. So if I want to become the manufacturing thought leader, here's what I do. I go out and I'm a big LinkedIn guy, right? So on LinkedIn, I connect to all the Microsoft sellers that work in manufacturing, right? Yeah. I connect to all my customers, and especially the ones in manufacturing. I maybe want to do some partner to partner work in manufacturing. If I'm an SI, I look for ISVs that I can bundle together for manufacturing, and we go out and we build a message. And I'm working with ISVs right now. We're saying, okay, let's take a 6-month campaign. And, we can work with MS Dynamics World. We work with LinkedIn. We work with email marketing, and say, okay, over 6 months, let's find your sweet spot. Let's find your message, and let's make it consistent to a group of customers, partners, or Microsoft. And then let's look at our results. Let's fine tune it, and let's go into our next 6-month campaign. And I think we have to think about things in that nature, as opposed to, here's a big blast. I'm getting a bunch of leads, and how am I going to close these leads? Because really, you have to stay in a space for a while. And as I say, it's the long tail, right? You really have to kind of move through and own that space over a little longer period of time.
Yeah. And I think that strategy is really good. And I actually think that's something that Microsoft has been pushing, to sort of have these industry designations and these solution designations. So that's interesting. And I've always believed that especially ISVs should have a much more niche focus, even if their product is, I guess, horizontal. They should still, really push their expertise in specific industries. And I agree with you on the partner side too, that they really need to just kind of focus on, one line of business, essentially, whether it's, a specific industry or a specific solution, and just kind of focus all the messaging around that. Not to say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that they can have multiple industry designations and multiple solution designations, but I think making sure that you're at least running separate campaigns for each one on the sales side and the marketing side. I would think
I think it's important to say, okay, I've got 400 or 500 accounts. I'm an ERP partner. Look at where your customers are today and say, okay, let's break them into pods. Here's my manufacturing, here's distribution, here's government, right?
Yeah.
And let's say, okay, what ISVs can I bundle together with and run campaigns? Because you don't have to go it alone, right?
Yeah,
you can go it with your ISV partners. And we're seeing, smart partners actually create a bundle, almost call it a product, put it up on AppSource, and market it to that group that they're looking at, that pod they're looking at. And there's nobody's saying you can't run 3 or 4 different campaigns a year. But really run it, measure it, run it, measure it, run it, measure it. And we're not very good at the measure part, right? We kind of run, and then say, okay, how many leads did we create? And it's usually, I don't want to say it's a bogus number, but it's sort of a number that anything could have created those leads. We don't understand where they came from. We don't understand what industry. And we have a big problem too with leads when I start to work with partners. Where are they? Are they top of funnel, middle funnel, or are they ready to close? Which is a big gap, right? I think understanding data, understanding the process is much more important to our partners going forward.
Yeah. And you mentioned co-selling, which I think is a huge part too. And do you find that it's really the partners that push more for the co-selling activities with ISVs, or do you think it's the ISVs that really push more to get co-selling activities with partners?
Oh, it's the ISVs wanting to co-sell, right? Because it's good for them to say, okay, you've got 400 accounts and I'm doing AP automation. Who can we go and help you with, right? Or I'm doing, I'm doing some sort of marketing integrations, or I'm doing, something to do with data management. Like, who can I work with? But I think the partners have to spend more time, and I know they're busy, more time bundling solutions together and saying, okay, here's my core ISVs I want to work with, and really go to market together.
Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. And you think it's more of a combination of sort of co-marketing and co-selling? They really have to go hand in hand?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they have to work together, build a solution, market it together, and, work those leads together. There's going to be a lot more trust, I think, going forward than there is now between all the parties.
Yeah. And I was going to ask about that too. There's all these, I've heard over the years strategies for how ISVs and partners work together on specific deals. What do you think is sort of the optimal system for that?
Well, I was sitting at a conference a few years ago, partner conference, and, pretty much it was a session on how to work better together between ISVs and SIs. And the SI partners were like, leave our customers alone. We'll tell you when we need you to help us. It's not that world anymore, folks. Information is at everybody's fingertips. So I think you've got to really say, okay, who do I want to partner with? What's my strategy? And how do we work closer together? And I think there's more trust that they have to build in the future.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess kind of, well, and I think this is more for SIs. What do you think of all the sales enablement tools that are out there? And how important do you think it is for those partners to actually use those when scaling their channel efforts?
Well, I get a lot of AI generated emails lately, and most of them sound a bit foolish, right? They're not really targeted to, what you want to say to people or who do you want to say it to. We can use AI in sales, and I use AI a lot to, help with writing, help with posting, all that type of stuff. But I think to build an AI engine is a little more complicated. There's a lot of movement right now to an AI agent answering a customer, from a lead perspective. I think as long as the customer knows this is an AI agent and saying, hello, I'm an AI agent, what can I get you, is fine. But when we start to call the AI agent Herb, right? And Herb's trying to help you and you realize it's an AI agent, I think, still people get a little turned off by that. So I think we've got to use technology. We've got to use CRM better. Like I've been in the hundreds of partners organizations over the years, and they sell CRM, but they don't optimize it for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to get better at CRM. We've got to get way better at marketing automation. We still have many organizations running completely siloed. Marketing automation over here, CRM over there. And it's impossible to really scale and grow your business unless those two are talking together and are working hand in hand, because there's so much interaction now with content being driven by marketing and so much, activity by the sales team still, that we need to understand the data and what's working, the length of the sales cycle, where the sales cycle stops, how long these sales cycles are for certain products, who we're competing against, which partners are our best resellers. There's a ton of information available out there if we just spend time to link up the technology and customize it properly.
Yeah. And do you think that that's a way to actually increase the speed of the sales cycle? I always wondered about that.
Absolutely, because if I can analyze the data, we can look at what worked, right? So I can go in and say, okay, here's the 50 deals we closed last year as an ISV, or 500 deals, whatever the number is. Okay, what worked? What was the length of time? Where did it come into the system, right? And we can we can use AI to analyze conversations to see, okay, what are our best people doing and what are our lower producers are doing, so we can start to understand, hey, what's going on, because we always want to be able to fine tune it. We want to see what content the people who actually buy the product, what content do they absorb, what webinars do they go to, how long after a webinar are they coming in to buy the product, because here's still a big problem today. Our salespeople think short term. And we run into this with leads that we produce through MS Dynamics World. We had a customer say, oh, we don't think these leads are good. And I looked at the leads and there was 50, it was an ISV, and there's 50 F&O partners, and they were good contacts at that partner. I'm going, what's wrong with these leads? Well, they didn't get back to me when I followed up. Well, how many times did you follow up? Well, once, right? Okay. You gotta, now that they know who you are, they spent their time sitting and looking at your product. You got to nurture. It may take 6 months. It may take a year. It may take 18 months to get through to these partners. But if I'm an ISV and I say each one of those F&O partners are sitting on 50 installs, that's a lot of business. So you've got to understand where that contact was made and with who, and then how do we keep moving it forward? And it really becomes, the science of RevOps, which I think we have to pay more attention to.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I feel like that's a huge issue for companies that are just entering into this space, especially ISVs. They come in with sort of preconceived notions, especially if they come from the Salesforce space, because you and I have dealt with a lot of companies, and that ecosystem operates just a little differently. So, what if you're a new ISV coming into the BizApp space, what do you recommend that they do? Like, how should they start?
I recommend that they should talk to you or me first.
Okay. And I didn't ask that question just as for you to say that.
Well, no, because I run into this all the time. They come in and they see Microsoft saying we got 400,000 partners.
Yeah.
They come into the space and let's say they develop something for Business Central. Okay, so we've got, they come into the space and they start marketing. So I see them this has happened before. I see them at a BizApps show with a great big booth. They spent probably $50,000, $100,000 on this booth. And I'm there talking to them. Well, we've got an integration to Business Central. Okay. And how are you going to market? Well, we know there's 400,000 Microsoft partners out there, and we want to talk to them all about what a great product we have for Business Central. Then we start to narrow it down and go, well, you really know there's probably 4,000 or 5,000 Business Central partners globally. Oh, I wasn't aware of that, right? Because Microsoft calls everything Dynamics.
Sure.
So even in BizApps, there's probably 25,000 partners you should pay attention to. So they come in with this astronomical number that they think they can market to, and very quickly they find, no, it's a much smaller group. And then what they find out is that these groups have relationships with a lot of ISVs and ISVs in their space. And some of them have been working with ISVs for 20 years in that category. And you may have a better product, but you're going to have to prove it to the partner. And to really get into our space and start working with a reseller channel, I guess, you know what, I think that's a 2 to 3 year commitment to say, okay, we're coming into the space. We've got to target our messaging. We've got to go out and meet people. And whether it's online or at a conference, we've got to educate people, with MS Dynamics World Sessions or however they do it. We've got to educate these partners to understand where we're positioned, why we are better, and why they should look at us. And then it's really going to be a whole series of, sequences of due diligence. They may run a pilot project with you, and if it works out well, they'll bring you in. So again, maybe 2 to 3 years to develop a partner channel here.
Yeah, interesting. That makes sense. So before we wrap up here, I think you're traveling to a bunch of different conferences, and I know we're doing stuff together. So what's on the docket for Rick McCutcheon in the next couple of months?
Well, I don't know when this is going to publish, but we got Directions Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Biggest Business Central show. And I know I'm working with your partner, Jason Gumpert. We've got a couple of sessions there. Then we're in Chicago for Dynamics Con and the partner marketing event. So if you're a partner marketer, you need to be in Chicago on May the 13th. We're probably going to have over 100 marketers this year. So this is our third year of running this program. We started out with 50 marketers. Then we moved to last year, 75 marketers. I'm hoping for 150 marketers in the room, really for a day of learning and discussion. But we're going to look at the MS Dynamics World survey on marketing data, which I think is the most important piece of that. And then we do that for a day. Then we run into Dynamics Con. And then we're off to Europe for Resco's Advanced Mobility Show in Spain and Dynamics Minds, which is really becoming the biggest conference for all of Dynamics, Business Central, Power Apps, CRM, finance in Europe. So it's a busy next couple of months.
Yeah, awesome. And once again, congrats on your 250th episode of Partner Talks. That's really cool.
Thank you, Adam.
You've done that many. Yeah, I know. It's awesome.
It's 250, but that's the number, and we're really we're really happy of the way things have gone, and we really appreciate the support from MS Dynamics World.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rick, thanks so much for taking the time. It's always awesome to chat with you. I'm sure we will chat again in the very, very, very near future. So thanks again, and everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Okay, thank you, Adam. We'll see you in Vegas.